All right, well, I think it's about 3:30, and if not, I can talk about this stuff for days and days, so I'm going to get started now, just in case. No, I'm just kidding, I won't keep you for days and days. My name is Christine White, and my presentation is Discovering and Sharing Spatial Resources on the Web. And a lot of times I feel like that spider in the middle of this information web, with knowing there's so many things out there, and wondering how to get to them. So we'll get into some of that stuff. We're going to cover a lot of ground, just basically because I know we have a lot of different backgrounds, and some stuff might be review for some of you, might be new for some of you, but I just hope that everybody learned something. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with a company called Esri, or ESRI? All right, a few of you. Okay, so, all right, well, has anyone never heard of us? Okay, all right, well then I'll just give a brief little thing. So we are a company in Redlands, California, been around for a long time, a geographic information system software company. It's a privately owned company. There's many employees. We have offices all over the world. And we are well known for a product line called ARC. So if you ever hear of ArcGIS, or you've heard of shapefiles, or you've heard of, shapefiles is the big famous one. That's what we do, is this ArcGIS line. And back in the day, if you are familiar with GIS many, many years ago, you might recognize the familiar digitizing pad and nice console there. This was our ArcInfo line, and that was good, great for really intense desktop GIS data manipulation, analyzing. And we still do that to this day. It's one of our most popular things people like to do with our stuff. But we are now also moving into the world of the web. We facilitate products that help expose maps as services, so people can interact with map data through URLs. And we have something now called arcgis.com, which is a website that anyone can go to, become a user, and then they can search for map data, they can make up their own mashups, they can be part of communities, they can search for content, a lot of stuff that they can do absolutely free online. But free does not always equal open source, and we are as you know, we are a company that's commercial, but we actually have some real open source projects, and that's why we're here at OSCon. It's exciting to be here. I've worked on this ESRI GeoPortal server thing for the past 4 years and seen it move from being a thing that we did first as a professional services thing just for customers that wanted to share their data and didn't know how. And then we made it this toolkit that you could buy and purchase and get training for. And then last October, we released it on SourceForge under the Apache 2.0 license. And you can download it for absolutely free and take the code and change the code and sell the code, whatever you want to do with it. And we are engaging in that user community too for changes that they want to wrap back into the trunk. So that's been an exciting journey for our team. They made the announcement it was going to be open source on a Friday, and I was out of the office that day, and I got to work on Monday, and I was wondering if I still had a job. They said yes. I think it's a journey. So it's been really, really neat experience. There's another product I also work on this team, the ArcGIS editor for OpenStreetMap. So this desktop thing that we have, that is not open source. That's something you can buy, but now you can buy it for $100 a year is the license cost for a home license for ArcGIS desktop. But the editor to OpenStreetMap is open source, and that's on Codeplex. So if you want to get that for free and you have access to ArcGIS desktop, you can get that for free, be part of our community, help us make it better. We love that. And then there's a final thing that we do that's open source, the ArcGIS Silverlight Toolkit SDK, and that builds upon our Silverlight map board. So that's just who we are, why we're here, in case you were wondering. But that's not probably why you attended this session. The thing I want to talk about now is why I like to do this work for Esri. Our generation, like our generation here in this room, we have big challenges, and this is no secret, it's on the news all the time. And whether it's global climate change, or shifts in urbanization, or ending poverty, or hunger, or biology challenges, these are the challenges for our generation. And just recently I've been personally challenged because I think there's a tendency to try to think, oh, well maybe the next generation will find the solution. Or if our parents hadn't freaking driven around forever in their nasty cars, like throwing away everything, we wouldn't be in this mess. But we can't blame the other generations, and we can't wait for the next generations to solve these problems. We will find solutions, and that's something that we have to do, and our generation will do it. And a lot of these challenges are geographic challenges. Not in their very nature, but they utilize geographic data to solve them. And you might say, okay, I know most of you know what geographic data is, but just in case so we can get clear on it, pretty basic definition is it's data that's not only, it's a data with a where component, and the where is, for our sake of conversation, is the Earth. So we're not talking about the geographic location of the body or like mind space. We might talk a little bit about extraterrestrial space, as in like solar coordinate systems and stuff, but usually we're talking about space on the Earth. So for example, this is one of those arcgis.com maps that shows glacial retreat over time. There's a little time slider so you can see how it changes between 1989 and 2009. And it has value when you see the retreat, and it's kind of a subtle change, but if you're on the ground, especially like if we look up here, it's a subtle change. So, oops, forward. You know, but it's subtle, but it's significant. And so here we see some things about the Columbia Glacier. We can see how there was a change just over a few years, and that's important. So, just also, you probably are familiar with OGC web services. If you're not, this is just basic. This isn't even a crash course. But the idea is that we have a standard-based way of communicating about, and this is specifically technologies used for geographic data. So for example, you can use a web map service to request get me a map through the URL protocol, bring one back, and display it in any client that can serve up WMS and can see a map image. Some of these other things, web coverage service, web feature service allows you to interact with the actual features of the map. Something that's kind of important for the rest of this talk is this catalog service for the web. Is anyone familiar with catalog service for the web, CSW? Okay, well, Richard works for Esri too, so not fair. So this is an open protocol that allows you to interact with a remote catalog of data sets. So you can say, hey, I want to find all of the data with the keyword hurricane in it. Go find me that data, and in this specific extent, and you use this protocol to retrieve results that match your search, and then you've got a list of results of data sets that match that search query. And this is important because the tool we're going to talk about today, actually the tools we'll talk about today, use this catalog service for the web protocol, and it's an open specification. So it's not proprietary, it's standards-based, and that means that a lot of different clients can use this protocol. So, oops, this was a better animation when I have them all falling. Sometimes I feel like this, that they're all just falling on top of me and I have to remember all these acronyms. So, there really is no lack of data, and when we heard the speakers this morning talking about big data and all the data that's out there, and I'm not saying that more research doesn't need to be done, but there's tons of data out there. We've got ocean, sea surface temperatures, and we've got seismic readings, and we have economic data, and we've got a million ways to share it. Imagery, we can get it from our mobile devices, social network stuff, places to store it. So there's lots of data out there, but how do you get what you need, or how does your organization get what it has out to users? And it's a complicated question. Something that's kind of related to that, and this is kind of a groundwork concept, is metadata. So metadata can be a loose term, and this morning we heard Adrian talk about the metadata that's associated with his Netflix. Like he said, it's tagging about the genre, the subject of the movies, what language they're in. And that type of tagging is sufficient for most users. If you upload a Flickr photo for, say, like my dog is eating an orange, you know, if someone just looking for that photo, is probably interested in the dog and the orange, but they're not that interested in the kind of camera that was used to take the photo, or where this dog is. You know, that kind of metadata isn't so important to them. And same with Netflix. You really don't care where the user that posted the review is from. You just care how many stars they gave it, and what genre they're using, that kind of thing. So this brief metadata is sufficient for most users, a happy, large group of users. And then there's these miserable people that are that are stuck in this GIS community that like formal metadata. So formal metadata, if the words ISO 19115, ISO 19139 mean anything to you, or FGDC means anything to you, does this mean anything to anyone? Okay, a few of you. So a few other tortured souls. This type of verbose metadata is super useful for the GIS community. And we say, well, why is that? So, in case you're wondering what it looks like, this verbose metadata, this is you can see these tags are mostly closed, but it's XML. And a standards-based organization like the International Standards Organization says, hey, when you're describing a geographic data set, you should make sure it has a title and an abstract that says what it's about, and where somebody created this, and where the data set takes place, and what instrumentation was used, and does it have good quality. You should do these things. And then they make another standard, the 19139, to describe how it's encoded in XML. So here is just kind of what 19139 would look like, where they could say, hey, this document, this metadata document has a unique file identifier, and it's written in X language, and language as in like English and Spanish, not like Java. Hierarchy level is whether this metadata describes the data set, or a data series, or just a few observations, who made it, how to contact them, etc. So why is this important? Why is metadata important? One, it protects the investment in the data. You spend your career making this amazing data set, and then people can actually tell that it's quality. Two, when your staff that created the data set move on to other things, other people can still know what this thing is and know that it exists. Provides info on the quality of the data set. A user that is using the end data set can tell if it's fit to meet their purposes. And then these two are pretty important. Data transfer and providing access to the data. So when you put in here who to contact, and then later on this section down here has a distribution section, people can know how to get to that data, whether it's a CD stored in your closet, or it's a web service that they can connect to and actually consume directly. And finally, that it's going to reduce duplicative work. If you can discover this data set and know it exists, then other people don't have to recreate the data set because they don't think it does exist. So all this is kind of background to talk about geoportals, which is the way that I want to talk about discovering and sharing geospatial data. So there's many geoportals out there. Sometimes people just build a geoportal, because you can do that, especially if you're programming and you like a lot of pain. The other way is to use ones that have already been built by others and are part of a user community. And these are 3 open source ones that exist. Esri Geoportal Server is the one I'll show today, because I work for Esri and I'm familiar with that one. GeoNetwork is also an open source geoportal, and that's released, I think, on SourceForge as well. We're on SourceForge. And then GeoNode is available from GitHub, and that's another open source geoportal option. So how does this geoportal connect to this XML conversation that we're having? Well, we talked about data sets, and we talked about how it's important to create metadata for them so we know what the data sets are about. And we talked about formal metadata that can be in XML. So that's what we've got going on over here. And you can publish this to a geoportal. And there's a lot of different ways to publish. But basically it's the idea that you are somehow transferring the XML into the geoportal's database, and usually through some kind of easy-to-use user interface tools, because the users that are publishing this stuff aren't people that want to actually open up a database and do insert stuff. They want to just click a button. So, and I say synchronize too, because you can also synchronize an endpoint. For example, say you've got a whole web accessible folder full of metadata documents, you can register that with your geoportal, and the geoportal can go and harvest that folder at different time increments and get updated metadata from it. So what's going on in the back end is users are adding their XML documents through a user interface or through some kind of protocol like catalog service for the web, CSW, and it's getting stored in a database. And we use Lucene indexing to index that XML. And we index it so users can search the index and discover and access geospatial resources. This is pretty simplified, but it's a pretty actually simple tool to understand. So when I talk about discover and access, there's a number of ways that they can discover and access information from. One is that search page in our GeoPortal tool. The other is through that CSW protocol, they can actually use CSW clients to connect to these GeoPortal endpoints and find resources and consume them in their desktop GIS. And we have another product called ArcGIS Explorer that you can also search and pull stuff into. You can search GeoPortals through an open search or through the REST API. And I don't know about the other two, but I think they might leverage these two things. But I know the GeoPortal server exposes its catalog through the REST API and also through open search. And then finally, if you're using web map viewers, there's widgets, web map viewers that allow you to search these catalogs as well and bring results into your viewer. So for this software that I'm talking about today, there is a no-cost system setup. And there's also a cost system setup if you love your SQL Server database or your Oracle database, and you love your servlet exec web server, and you love your if you love your proprietary stuff, this will run on that too. But if we're at an open source conference, and my thought is that you want to use tools that are free and open. So PostgreSQL can be used for the database. It's underlying, and it's a very simple database. It's 7 tables. And then there's this user management component of the GeoPortal that allows some people to publish metadata, others just to search, and others to be administrators that approve things that are posted in there to kind of give some quality control. And that user control hooks into your organization's user directory tree. So if your organization is using something like Active Directory or Oracle Internet ID, the GeoPortal can hook to that. But if you wanted just to set up an open, free, your own directory, Apache Directory Server is something you could use to set up those users, and that's free. You can use Tomcat or Glassfish, of course, to serve it out. The GeoPortal server application itself is open source. We integrate with the Flex-based map viewer, which right now I don't think it's open source yet. And this is kind of an optional configuration. It's not mandatory, but it is a free thing that you can get. And then you can use the ArcGIS.com services for the base map or other map services for the base map. So this thing is available at this URL, esriurl.com/geoportalserver. That's the easy URL. It redirects to our SourceForge URL. And you can go and you can download, and if you're excited about sharing your geospatial resources, you can also share your improvements to the code back. We love that kind of collaboration. But we can also give this to you on a VM. So if you want to just take it and try it out at this conference, we have a booth downstairs in the exhibitor hall, and just come by and we can give you a very large, it's about 2 gigs, VM. But then all you have to do is boot it up and it's already ready to go. It's got its database, it's got its user directory, and it's just something you can kind of play with. And of course, you can always feel free to email me if you have more questions. It's my email address, cwhite@esri.com. So, with our remaining time, I just kind of wanted to show you a little demo about what this thing is and what it does. And also feel free just to ask questions as I demo stuff too. We'll have time for questions at the end, I think, as well. So first, I want to show you some other GeoPortals that are out there, some other organizations that have taken this and done stuff with it. So one is Missouri. They have a spatial data information service GeoPortal. And you can see it kind of looks like what I showed on the slide. It has a look and feel like that. But they don't all have to have the same look and feel. We make this thing to be customized and configured and give it your own flavor. NOAA has this prototype. This is the National Ocean Service prototype GeoPortal. Kind of similar look and feel still, searching and browsing, and I'll show you what that's all about. And this is an older NOAA GeoPortal, but this is from the National Climatic Data Center. These are all live examples, public. and they're using this to share their climate data. And the EPA has one as well, Environmental Dataset Gateway. You can see still they're working on making this more customized for them. Now we get to some that are a little bit more different. So this is that same product, just a lot different look and feel, the GeoPortal from Lombardia. We have another one from Austria, and then one from Abu Dhabi. So, you know, it kind of shows that there's a localization aspect to this as well. So those are just some live user examples, and I'm going to demo on something that is something you can get to right now. We have a sandbox site kind of sitting out on the web that we give out to users that just want to try it out but don't want to have to set up, install it. And the URL is actually gptogc.esri.com/geoportal. And this is just a portal sitting out there. It's terrible for demonstrations because anyone who registers on this site automatically becomes an administrator and can delete everything. So please don't do this right now. I will really be sad if you do this right now while I'm talking. But I thought it would be good because it's a place you can actually go and play with after this presentation and you know, try loading up things and see how it works and stuff. So I'm going to demo on it, and hopefully no one's changed anything since I practiced an hour ago. So it says beta, but we've already released our 1.1. We just haven't changed the property file to say not beta. So we just go to the search page, and it's a smart search. It knows wildcards and things. So maybe I'll just search for hurricane star. It's going to find hurricane, hurricanes, hurricane. And it also is able to federate searches out to other endpoints. So the idea here is that CSW protocol, you can actually register another endpoint, like say another geoportal, like the NOAA geoportal or the EPA geoportal. I can register their CSW endpoint with my geoportal. And when I search for a hurricane on this site, I can also search for it on their sites. And it'll bring back results into my user interface. And I can see stuff that's hosted on other sites.